And so participatory photo mapping also helps us change, and it creates action-oriented opportunities. And this is another Safe Routes to School project I did in another town called Sun Prairie, which was a very different experience. So here's a photograph that a young person took of an intersection on their way home from school. And this is how participatory photo mapping works. So here's the photograph that the young person took. Here's the map. Here's the route. There were two different walks. The red walk was one group. The yellow walk was one group. And I'm walking with these kids, so I went on the yellow walk. This is the intersection where the photograph was taken. And here's what, when we did the focus group, what the young person said. This is all at the intersection, green light. There is a stampede of cars. They don't even look at you. They don't even try. We ran across and still didn't make it in 8 seconds. And so here's the humbling part of doing this project is when my colleague, who is a public health practitioner, my community partner, and I, and we've worked on many, we did the Mount Horeb project together. We did this project together. We got to be about right here, and we tried talking the kids, and they wanted to cross at a very busy intersection. We talked them into going. This is where they wanted to cross, and just by a fluke, there's no cars here, but this is rushing cars. When you find an opening in traffic, you just have to run. So and I believe that when I'm walking around in the community with kids, I really want them to be safe, but I want to know what they're doing. What are the choices that they're making? So I'll run across the street with them. My colleague, who isn't a researcher, was just like, no, we can't do that. Let's go to the crosswalk. And so we go to the crosswalk, and here's what we found, which we were all very confused by. There's me telling you to die. You have to go all the way to the other street. No walking across the crosswalk. If you use the crosswalk, you have to go all the way around by Summit Bank. So either way, you cannot cross at the crosswalk. So, it basically says, no pedestrians, use the crosswalk, which is, I still don't understand what this means. But the kids were right. They had made the right choice, because what happens when they use the crosswalk, they end up on this little island in the middle of a sea of traffic, and they've actually become much more unsafe. And so this is just an example of why kids make these choices. But this project ended up being pretty incredible, because this is some photos that they put a display together of their project. And here I am I'm explaining to them right before we're going to go out on our walk what we're going to be doing. And the young people actually identified safe walking behavior. So those kids, good walking with the crosswalk instead of across the other side where the cars are turning. People say thank you to the crossing guards. And so these kids put together a video. So here's the outcomes from this project. They did a By Kids for Kids Safe Routes video that they're going to be using in their own school for peer-to-peer education. This information was presented to the city. The city hired another crossing guard. So this is like some serious decision making, and this is pretty impressive. I gave this talk once at the Bioneers Conference, and it turned out just by a complete fluke that the mayor of Sun Prairie was in the audience, and he heard me. So it was really good that I said a lot of great things about the city, but it was a pretty incredible how they really listened to the kids. So the city addressed these safety concerns, and it built efficacy, because when we went back and said to the kids, how did it feel to actually be taken seriously by the city and other grown-ups, they were like, wow, I did not think they were going to listen to me. And not only did they listen to me, but they made all of these changes before the first day of school. And so now there's some future projects happening in Sun Prairie. So a lot of times, like Dave was saying, the research project ends, but then it continues. And a lot of times it continues without us, and that's fine. So this is a little bit out of order, but this is the original project that Dave went into a little bit. It was called Youth Voices, and the kids named it that, Youth Voices. And so we engaged kids in generating new knowledge and building self-efficacy. I can do that. Another thing about maps that we haven't talked about is when we're looking at obesity, so nutrition environments and physical activity environments, it's calories in, calories out. But a lot of times kids don't, when we talk about kids moving around, we say, we're going to go on a walk, and they'll say how long. We're going to be gone an hour, and we're going to walk maybe a mile, and they'll say, I can't do that. If I did that, I might die. But then you can show them on a map that they actually walked 2 miles, and they didn't know that they could do that. And so a lot of it is just sort of building that efficacy and just creating an opportunity for people to realize their own potential. Information exchange with youth presentations. And so outcomes from the South Madison project, which is called Youth Voices, was new knowledge. Changed adult behavior, and Dave touched on this a little bit, but we did a presentation after the project to police, the local Southside police station, where every single Southside police officer was presented with the project and the information. My colleague and I did a presentation, but the majority of the presentation was the young people talking about what it's like to be a kid in this neighborhood and how they want to be treated by police, and the things about police that they like and the things about police that they don't like. Like, they didn't like it when police asked them questions that were none of their business, and then they could tell. They could tell me exactly how a good cop, what's the difference between a good cop and a bad cop, had to do with eye contact and getting in your business. But the police officers really, most of them, took this very seriously and really changed their behavior. And we built new partnerships and new programs. So we were talking about parks before. One of the things that came from this was looking at the use of the park, who uses the park. In this community, it was primarily African Americans that used this park. But this really bothered a lot of people at the Boys and Girls Club, and so they decided that they were going to try and figure out how to get some more diversity at this park. So they hired a Spanish-speaking program coordinator for summer activities to try and pull in some Latino families and get people at the park, which would hopefully reduce the amount of drug activity going on there. But so here is a really great example of assumption-based decision making. So here's a farmer's market. And when you're looking at the objective measures of the built environment, you can look at, here's the neighborhood. The green circle is a 1/4 mile. It's about the distance that a person will walk without actually thinking about it or complaining about it. The red stars are places in the neighborhood where it's fast food or anywhere you can get yucky food, bad for you food. The green stars are up in the corner is a community garden, and here is the farmer's market with this picture. So here's where this picture was taken. And so for me, I'm like, oh, this food was grown by an African-American community leader, and it's beautiful, and it's right here in your neighborhood. It's walking distance. And at the same time, here is what also is walking distance. And those two pictures together reflect the complexity of this situation, because this is where kids go to get their snacks. And there's a farmer's market across the street where they can get fresh food. But if I were to ask you if this is a good or a bad place, what would you say? There's a lot of advertisement for alcohol, and there's a lot of really processed, highly processed food. There's not a single vegetable. There's not a single apple, which I didn't even observe. A young person said, you can't even get an apple there. But this is a place where kids feel safe and they're welcome. And the people that own this store, which is called the liquor store, they call it the liquor store, they know their names, and they let them slide. They let them be shortchanged if they don't have enough money to buy a donut or whatever. And so this is their nutrition environment. This is where they're getting their snacks. But this is a welcome. This is a place where they feel welcome.